Got a Honda Pilot in the shop and it needs a new AC condenser fan. Let's get to work. This is what we're working on today. A 2012 Honda Pilot. This is the two-wheel drive model. I believe this is the Touring. And we diagnosed it in a previous video that it has a bad AC condenser fan. So that's what we're going to be replacing today. We're going to be replacing the entire cooling fan assembly. This is made by TYC. There's your part number, made in Taiwan. This is for the two-wheel drive model. Definitely always double check part numbers for your application. Alright, from the front of the vehicle, if we take a peek down here, there's our AC condenser fan. That's what we're going to be replacing. And we can see it looks like somebody's already been here. We didn't do this. But these clips are right here are broken. We'll have to deal with that. But anyway, we're going to have to replace that. And we don't quite have enough room to slide our entire assembly in and out right here. So what we're going to have to do, we got this front support piece right here. Some vehicles, we have some bolts right over here, right over here. We can remove the bolts and we can lift that whole metal support piece up and move it. That gives us a little bit of room. On this model, we do not have that. This is all one solid piece. It's welded all together. So what we're going to have to do is we'll loosen everything up. We'll remove the grill and we'll just move that radiator forward a little bit and we'll sneak our fan in and out there. And if you were replacing the radiator fan, which would be this fan over here, this is the condenser fan, this is the radiator fan. If you were doing this fan, you would remove this one first and then we'll take that one. You could take that one, loosen it up, slide it over and take it out. So you can use this repair procedure that I'm going to show you to also replace that fan there. But we're just going to be dealing with our AC condenser fan today because that's the one that's bad. Okay, this vehicle's nice and cool, so I can open up this cooling system. But to allow us a little bit better access when we have to kind of sneak all this stuff forward, our upper radiator hose right here kind of holds on to things, and so it's easiest to disconnect it. That way we have a little more play. I mean, you could try to leave it attached and work with it, but it's definitely going to fight you. This vehicle is ready for a cooling service, so this is a perfect time. I'm just going to open this up and then I'm going to go below and I'm going to crack the drain down below on the radiator and I'm just going to drain the coolant and then we'll fill it back up. If I wasn't going to replace the coolant, I would just drain a little bit just to get it below that hose right there. So, you know, we just got to drain about that much. I'm going to drain it all, but if I wasn't going to replace all the coolant, or service the coolant I should say, I would just go ahead and just drain a little bit. Alright, we got a little drain pan under here, and from this access point I'm just going to reach up here and see if I can crack this loose. Now yours might be tight. You may want to forgo this if it's too tight because it's kind of a pain to get to. But let's see if we can loosen this up. Oh, come on. Yeah, they didn't put this in a very good position. Anyway, there we go. We'll let that drain. And hopefully, like right at the tip of my flashlight right there, you can see the drain for the radiator. It's definitely not in a great position, but that's where it is right there. And just be ready, because coolant has a mind of its own when it comes to these plastic covers on the bottom. It just finds a way to drip on your floor. We got to get these plastic covers off, and to deal with those, we got a bunch of plastic clips all the way around that we'll have to get. We'll get these two first. So they have a center pin. Sometimes they come out separate like that. Sometimes the bottom piece, it all comes out together. And sometimes it comes out in like 50 different pieces. With those two out of the way, we can take this and we can either just spin it out of our way, or in this case, I'm just going to pull it out of the way. That way it's not blocking anything. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing with the rest of these. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. We'll have to get all 7. Now that we got all the clips off, we'll go ahead and pull this cover up. Alright, the coolant's pretty much done dripping. We'll just reach up here and shut it off. And I always recommend that used coolant is disposed of properly. Go ahead and put this back on so we don't drop anything in there. Now we'll go ahead and pull the grill off. We got a 10mm bolt here, another one right here we got to get, and then there's some clips holding this thing to the bumper cover right back behind here that we'll have to grab. Alright, using a 10mm socket, we'll get this one. And we'll get this one. Now with those bolts removed, you can see we have a little more play. Now we just gotta go down here, and where are the clips? Here's one right here. Let's see if I can get a flashlight. See if you can see it at all. No, probably not, but I can feel one right here. And let's see the one right here, and right here. And it looks like, yeah, we got two at the ends. So there's 5 of them we gotta deal with, and they're coming up from the bottom. So if we can, we either reach down here and pull them from the bottom, or we press them from the top. Either way. Hopefully you can see there's a shot of one of them through the mirror there, and it looks like that one's already broken. I haven't touched it yet. But yeah, we can just press it through from the top. Sometimes that works. You can try to pull it from the bottom, but most of the time these things don't survive just because of where they live. It gets so hot right here next to the radiator and condenser out in the front of the vehicle that these things become pretty brittle. Alright, there's the first one right here, and it did not survive. You can see that the legs broke off. I just used a short screwdriver to press the top down. But this is pretty common, at least out here. These things get really hot and brittle. Yeah, as soon as you touch them, they just crack and fall apart. They're definitely a pain to get out. And yeah, I think pretty much every one of these broke. Now we should be able to just pull our grill out. If we look at our grill, we have a little lip right here, and then we have this little kind of a hook. And the lip kind of goes under there, and then this goes over the top. So you might have to yank to kind of pop it out. And then when we put it back, we got to make sure that that lip goes under there. Otherwise this will be sitting a little too high, and then, well, it'll look funny. We don't want that. There's a shot of our condenser and our radiator, and let's see, we'll have to pull the reservoir out. We'll get that out of our way, and then we'll pull the brackets for the radiator. We got one on each side, and then we'll pull the brackets for our condenser. And there should be a brace that goes right here. If we look closely, we can see the outline of where it used to be bolted in right there, but you know, just like they left this like this, whoever worked on this before didn't put that brace back on. So just more evidence of shoddy work. But in any event, let's go ahead and get this off first. Alright, without breaking this, we'll just pop this out of its little plastic clip, and then there's 2 little plastic clips that hold our hose on our fan. I'll show you those. And if we just look around the back side here, we'll just pop it out there and pop it out right there. And in case this is too tight, we'll just use some hose clamp pliers. We'll just twist and kind of pop this off just like that. And we should just be able to pop the reservoir up out of its housing just like that. Whoop, and we're peeing everywhere. There we go. And be sure to clean up any coolant that spills, especially if any gets on the belts. Now we'll pull our AC condenser brackets off, so we'll get a 10mm socket, pull that bolt, and we'll pull that bolt also. Now, do not loosen your AC line. Don't pull this bolt. That's your AC line. You pull that, all your refrigerant's going to escape, and it might escape right into your face or your hands and freeze you. So don't touch that unless your entire AC system has been recovered and all the refrigerant removed. Otherwise, that's going to end in a bad day for you. I'm just going to use a little swivel extension so I can get in there. And we'll just pull this bracket up and off, and this one too. And you can see sometimes the rubber bushing comes with it, sometimes it doesn't. Now we'll pull our radiator brackets, also a 10mm socket. Same on this side. And we can just lift our bracket off, both of them. I don't think you can mix these up. Maybe you can, but I do believe they're the same. Now while we're right here, let's just go ahead and unplug our fan. At least get it disconnected from this wiring harness. And they already did the dirty work for us and broke all the clips off, so otherwise, you know, these have to be pulled out, and you can do it one of two ways. You can just rip them out right here, or once the fan is loose, you can try to sneak in through there and pinch the back of them and not break them. It's hit or miss whether you're going to break them doing either technique, so just be aware there's a good chance you're going to break those things. Now we're going to have to manhandle our AC condenser and our radiator a little bit, so we got to be careful, especially with the AC condenser. We don't want to damage our lines or fittings right here, but we can lift it up where it kind of just sets down in there. That side we can lift up. This side's probably not going to really want to work with us. Yeah, a little bit. But if we lift it up out of there, we can kind of pull it back a little bit. Right there, that's about as far as it's going to go. So that gives us a little room like that. Now this line, it's attached with rubber on this side, so we have a little more leeway with this one. That's a solid metal line, so we don't have a lot of room with that one. But if we're careful, we can just tip it back like that. We're going to do the same thing with our radiator. We can kind of lift it up just a little bit, and it'll help us tilt it back. But the problem is, I'm having a hard time with one hand, but the problem is that hose is really holding on. Now if I sit there and really manhandle it, maybe I could make enough room to sneak that by, but this is definitely going to be in our way a little bit. But I've already drained the coolant in preparation for this, so let's go ahead and disconnect that hose, and that'll give us a little more room. Not the best design or the easiest to get in there, but our hose clamp is out of the way. You can see once we pop that hose off, that releases a lot of the tension. And just be aware, if you decide not to drain a little bit of coolant out of your radiator first, when you disconnect this hose, you will spill some coolant. Alright, now that we got more room, let's take a look down there. Now, if we look at the bottom here, at the bottom of our assembly, if you have a four-wheel drive model, you're going to have some ATF cooler lines across the bottom, or at least you should. They just have a little plastic clamp that goes around the top. You should be able to unclip it and open them up and loosen them up. You just have to remove them off our shroud here. We don't have those, so we don't have to worry about it, but what we do need to do is there's a bolt right there. We don't need to remove it because these are slotted. These fans are slotted at the bottom. All we have to do is loosen that one up. And where's the other one? There's another one right down there. We just got to reach down there and just crack it loose. Once we get those loose, then we can remove this bolt here and this bolt here, and they're all going to be a 10mm socket. But we just pull these out, loosen the two at the bottom, and we should be able to pull our assembly out. And I'm just getting to those bolts with an extended 1/4" ratchet. This one does have a flex head, but I really didn't need it. I did lose a glove though. Now we'll get these two right here, and for these we will have to remove them all the way. And you can see that this is in the way. So when this is over, you're not going to have access to these bolts anyway. So even if you wanted to try to come from the other side and not do all this work of pulling it this way, you're not going to get to that bolt. But in all honesty, you have to at least get to this point in order to get this thing out, because there's just not enough room on the other side. And we'll pull this one out. Now, as long as we've disconnected everything from our fan assembly and loosened those two bolts at the bottom, we should be able to sneak it right out. It's a tight fit, but you can get it. Now this chain is hard to reach from the bottom, and so I'm just going to make sure that it's nice and tight from the top here. And we'll make sure that these are loosened up enough and that these washers are out of our way, so when we drop this new assembly in, we won't have issues. It'll just kind of drop right into place right there. Now we'll compare our new one with our old one, make sure everything matches up. It does look like it matches up, but looks like we did have a casualty. This must have broken off during shipping. Unfortunately, I do not have time to wait several days, and I'm not putting this old one back in, so we're gonna have to make do with it. So I'll have to try to come up with something. We'll see how it ends up. Now, sometimes we could just, this is what Honda tells you to do. You just buy the motor and you swap the motor out. So that is an option, but I don't know if this aftermarket motor will fit in there, so I'm not going to mess around with that. We're just going to put this new one in and then see what I can come up with as far as this. We will have to move these clips over here without breaking them, so I'll do that and get those installed. Now there's a little tab right there and a little tab right there, and just a gentle little pinch with these hose clamp pliers, and you can pop it right through. I can't do it with one hand, but that's all I'm going to do is pop it through just like that. So there we go, popped it through very gently, and then we'll snap these into place. So now we're good to go. Okay, here's the fix for our broken bracket. I had to improvise, adapt, and overcome. Of course, that's what the old one looks like. Here's what our new one looks like. I pulled the clip from the old one. I just fashioned a piece of metal on there and I got it bolted and screwed down, and I got the original piece back into place, so it's secured on there. It's not going to go anywhere, and that's not too bad. Yeah, you can see it a little bit, but that's not bad at all. And then this should snap into place and we'll be good to go. This is definitely strong. It's way stronger than it was before because we got a piece of metal back there, but I think that's going to work. Alright, now we know that the clips on our vehicle that hold the wiring harness across here are all broken, and they have zip ties attached to them like this. So I got a bag of goodies here. I think these are going to work perfect. If we try this out, yeah, that snaps in there perfect, and it's nice and tight. Can you see the other side? Yeah, that's going to be perfect. I think we'll use those. Okay, I cut the old zip ties with clips off, so we got all brand new ones in place, and we cut them flush. Otherwise, if you leave a sharp edge right there, that can reach out and get you. That'll slice you wide open, so I don't recommend doing that. Now, our old assembly is metal. The new one is plastic, so the feet down there are a little fatter on our plastic ones. So I opened the bolts up, I loosened them up a little bit. It gives us a little more room to slide the new assembly in and get those feet into place. These clips were broken too, so I went ahead and fixed those. Now, if you need to replace the radiator fan, you would just pull these two bolts and then disconnect everything. So we got stuff up here and there's some stuff down at the bottom. So once you disconnect everything, pull these two bolts. The bottom just has feet, so then you can just pop it up out of those feet, slide it over this way, and then you should be able to pull it out. Now we'll go ahead and drop our fan assembly in. Of course, we make sure we got it going the right direction. Just be careful not to scrape up your radiator. And if you can see, we just make sure we drop it down onto both feet. I don't know, can you see down there? Probably not, but it looks like we're good to go. It looks like they're on there. And everything looks like it's lining up here. It looks like our repair will stay out of the way, so I think we'll be good. And we'll just get these bolts started up here. Sometimes you gotta finesse them on this aftermarket stuff. Looks like these are lining up pretty good. So we'll just get those snugged up. Alright, I just reached down there and tightened them both up by hand. Now we'll just go ahead and snug them up with a wrench. We'll snug up these two up here. I think the spec on these is like 5 foot-pounds or something really low like that, so don't go nuts with these or you'll strip things out. Okay, before we button everything back up, we're going to make sure this fan works. So I went ahead and plugged it in. I'm going to go grab the scan tool. We're going to make sure that fan turns on, and we're going to make sure it's running in the correct direction, pulling air this way. Alright, we'll make sure everything's clear. Yeah, looks like we're good to go. And it works, and I can feel it's blowing air towards the engine, so we're good to go. Yeah, it would definitely suck to get it put all back together only to find out that fan is either wired incorrectly or doesn't work at all. I went ahead and cleaned up the radiator hose connection, so let's go ahead and put this back on. And then I'll fight with that clamp for a little bit and get it back into place. You want to try to get these hose clamps back in about the same position as they were. That's about as close as I can get it. This thing is definitely in the way when it comes to that. Okay, we'll go ahead and put our brackets back in. Now, just make sure if, the feet popped out, make sure that radiator is back in where it's supposed to be. If it is, then everything should line up over here. Just pop these back into place. And this one. And we'll snug these up before we forget. Same thing with our AC condenser. We want to make sure the feet are down there in position. Got this pressed back about where it should go. And then this just kind of goes in there, and then the rubber slides over the top, just like that. And then get the bolt started. And same thing with this side. And we'll get them snugged up. Now let's go ahead and plug our wiring harness in. Okay. Got everything plugged back in. We'll double check. Everything looks good. Everything's holding. Of course, our fans are plugged back in. And I think that's everything under here. We do have to get our coolant reservoir, but I think we're good to go. I dumped all the old coolant out of the reservoir, ran some water through it, so it's all nice and clean. We'll just get this snapped back into place. And see if we can clip these in the right spot. That goes there, and then this clamps right there. Good to go. The wires popped out of their little clips here, so I just got those back into place. all 5 clips that go to our grill pretty much destroyed. So we'll go to this one here, the HE01. Should be this 10mm BO2. These should work perfect. So we'll just grab 5 of those and get our grill reinstalled. Now we'll just take the grill. Of course, we'll make sure that this lines up under there. And you'll kind of feel it pop in down there. Make sure our bolt holes line up over here. Now we'll go grab our new clips and we'll just put them in from underneath. Now if you want, you can pop these apart, but we want to slide this bottom piece in first and get it all the way flush, and then we push the center down. Just reach under here, push them up into place, and then we snap the center. So don't try to snap that center before you get it clipped all the way in there. Alright, there's 1, 2, 3, where are you at? 4, and let's see if we can get 5 over there. Yeah. And hopefully you can see number 5 over there. Alright, we'll get the bolts for our grill back in place. And we'll get them snugged up. We'll go ahead and drop our plastic cover back into place. I did wipe it off a little bit. Not perfect, but it looks a little better. We'll go ahead and put the clips back. All of them survived except for one. This one didn't make it. So we're going to use the same clip that we used for the grill. It's the same one, so the B02 will work. We'll put our little air inlet back on. Same thing, I wiped this off too. These clips are also okay, but if not, it would be the same ones that we've been using. Those B02 would work. Alright, one final look over. I did clean things up. Make sure we got all our clips. Make sure everything is plugged back in and is where it should be. I think we're good to go. Now we can just go ahead and fill this thing back up with coolant and bleed the system. I'm not going to go into detail on bleeding the system. I have videos on that, so maybe I'll post some links to those. But I will say it's very important that you bleed the system, get all the air out of there. Do we even need that thing? Let me see. Nah, we don't even need it. But very important, bleed the air out of the system. That way, you know, you won't have any issues with overheating and things like that. The other thing I'll tell you is make sure, definitely use either genuine Honda coolant like this or stuff that's made specifically for Hondas that's blue like this. Don't go with a green or just a generic. At least, at the very least, use something designed for Hondas. I do like to bring up data on the scan tool. I'll bring up ECT1, ECT2. I like to do that anytime I've broken open the cooling system. Just make sure everything looks good as it's warming up. Now, what's one of the things I'm looking for? I want ECT2 to stay still as it's warming up. I don't want that to move much. That's our engine coolant temperature sensor that's down at the bottom of the radiator. I want this one to steadily go up to about 180 and 190, right in that area. Now it might be skewed because this one has a BCM muzzler on there. But I want to see that go up to about 180, 190, and then the thermostat will start to open, and then we should see ECT2 start to climb. That's a good indication that our thermostat is working. And we can see our ECT2 is starting to warm up pretty good now, starting to go up. So our thermostat is open now, and I'm pretty sure if we could see the correct temperature on that ECT1, it'd probably show about 185, maybe 190. Now it appears that our ECT1 is reporting correctly. We're pretty close to being fully warmed up. The fans should come on pretty soon. And hopefully you can tell fans are on. Yeah, it might have been in the air. The fans are on. Both working. Fans are on. We should be watching that ECT2 drop as it cools the coolant that's going through that radiator. And eventually, yeah, we'll see ECT1 drop because our fans are on right now. And now they're off. Of course, don't forget to fill up your coolant reservoir, and we always top it off to the max after we work on it. Alright, there you go. All done, all buttoned back up. I will go ahead and verify that the AC system is working and it's not shutting off when you're sitting at an idle. When it's hot out, it's the end of the day, so I'll have to do that tomorrow. But in any event, this vehicle should be done unless I find something else. Well, that's it for this one. And as always, if the video helped you out or you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Okay, I got the AC gauges hooked up. I just wanted to show you something real quick. We're at about, what is that, 205 PSI or so. And if we look over here, we can see fan control for low is on, but our high side is off. So that means our fans should be running on low. And we can verify both fans are indeed running on low. And so this system is operating normally. Once this pressure gets up above 221 PSI, then it should kick our fans on high. And they'll stay on high until that pressure comes down to about 170, 175 or so. So just want to bring you along, show you that little tidbit. Alright, now our AC fans kicked on high. You can see that they're on high. You should be able to hear them. They're a lot louder now. And we'll come over here and the pressure's dropping. It was like 230 or so a second ago. So it's not always an exact science exactly where they'll kick on. You know, the difference between the gauge here and our pressure sensor. But that definitely dropped our pressure down a little bit as soon as those fans kicked on high. Alright, it's 102 degrees out. Been sitting here idling for a while. We're blowing about 43 degrees consistently. As soon as I fired it up, those fans immediately went to high. And our coolant temps have basically stayed right there. That ECT1 is staying right about 163. Sometimes it'll bounce to 165, but it's been sitting right there. And that's because we got that VCM muzzler on there. We'd probably be closer to about 185 with the fans running on high. But this looks like a confirmed fix. No hiccups on the AC system so far, and I've been idling for a while. And I could easily recreate it before. And so it looks like this thing just needed a new AC condenser fan, and that fixed it. Hopefully you enjoyed that bonus footage. I did end up recovering the refrigerant out of the AC system because I wanted to see if it would give us any indication that we lost refrigerant through that AC pressure relief valve. And the amount that I recovered was exactly within spec, so I don't believe there's any issue with that. And the cooling system on this vehicle is working perfect. The AC system is working perfect, so I do believe we got it fixed. Thanks for sticking around to the end.